Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another week and with it another entry into the 2026 Season 1 campaign of the iRacing official Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. Brought to you of course on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC known as iRacing. That's right, we are back to kick off the 2026 calendar year with another strength of field race. For week number 3 of our calendar, we are here at the ultimate test of driver ability. It is none other than the Nürburgring Gesamtstrecke or the Nürburgring combined. An absolute behemoth in the motorsporting world at 16.12 miles and 170 corners. It is no wonder why this circuit is seen as arguably the European mecca of road racing. As our drivers get ready to take it on today over a 3-lap race, you can imagine here the stakes are going to be at the very highest because to come away victorious here is to have the ultimate bragging right of being the ringmeister. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this live broadcast from circuit side as you tune into our regular strength of field race from the 21:45 Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time UTC slot, and we're due to get racing in approximately 3.5 minutes time. In the commentary booth you have myself, my name is Paul Walsh, and I'll be bringing you all your racing action as it unfolds over the entirety of the round, indeed the entirety of the season. But let's not dwell because we haven't got long before we go racing, and let's give you a quick recap of how we head into this week of racing. Because as we can see, last time out on the 27th of December we were at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, and at everybody's favourite Belgian circuit we saw the highest strength of field in the broadcast history come about at 6,130. We haven't quite been able to recapture that today with 4,607 being our strength of field, but what a round of race it was. And in the end, Isaac Phelps was to come away the victor in a hard-fought battle with Guel Costa and also Alexander Specht and Olivier Piatek. Second place went to Isaac Phelps' teammate of none other than Heidi Nurmamasi, and Igor Kos meanwhile demonstrated that sometimes all you've got to do is stay out of trouble to be on the podium as he slipped his way from 7th all the way to 3rd. But today of course is the Nürburgring Gesamtstrecke with the risk of rain as well, and we have got plenty to enjoy here as our drivers get set to go racing. In terms of the top split standings then, with regards to this week, well coming into this week it's Oscar Bernsen who leads the way by the best part there of 42 points over Isaac Phelps, and Heidi Nurmamasi brings up the rear of the top 3. But it is very close right now with your top 10 separated by only the best part there of 100 points, and of course Igor Kos, Liam McNeely completing that top 5, only 5 points adrift of each other. It's a further 7 to Thomas Ronhart, one of our winners on the podium when it came to the week number 1 strength of field race behind Deegan Fairclough, of which you see him in 9th place there, and between the two of them Olivier Piatek and Tobias Olsen, and Guel Costa meanwhile all the way down in 10th place. But as for our host circuit, well it arguably needs no introduction at 16.12 miles, and it's the Nürburgring combined. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we're hearing our drivers are immediately going to circuit side, so we're not going to recap the rules. You know the rules by now, and as our drivers make their way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up based on the time trial qualifying session which they've been able to take part in over the course of the week building up to this race. And we can see George Tyler making his debut today, lined up on pole position ahead of Noah Eder, with the German being followed up by Oscar Bernsen and Tim Barnes. Then we do see in 5th, it's Said Emir back on the grid once again for the first time this season in the 2026 Season 1 Strength Field races, ahead of Dawid Lewinsky. And then we do have in 7th place Paul Bartman ahead of Denis Biertadrevik. We then have round off your top 10, the combination of Connor Clifford and Ruslan Aliyev. And outside that top 10, we then do have none other than Roman Rubik, and I do believe he's in the company of Aaron Jones. On row number 7, it'll be Gordon Haug and Maximilian Tanja ahead of Liang Zhao and Walt Lazowski. And then we do have on row number 9, Bell Wells and Yannick Diaz-Murillo ahead of Marcus Sarmento and Hayden Bramley. Then on row at number 11, it's going to be the combination pair of Fabrizio Donoso and Gustavo Ariel. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll have to stop going through the grid there because the grid is set. The lights are going on. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5 and lights. And it's lights out, away we go here for the week 3 strength of field race. And George Tyler gets underway, but looking alongside him, Noida meanwhile having an even stronger start. Here they come down towards turn number 1 with a little bit of wet track surface, but everyone on the slick tyre as they make their way into that opening braking zone. But it's a tight switchback here from right into left, and right now it does seem as though there Tyler able to keep it together behind Eder, but they're all safely on through the opening couple of corners. Further back we see Bartman battling hard already with Biertadrevik as they roar the way into left-hander, but as they get themselves set here for the left into the right. Well, too wide still there between Bitradrek and also what is Bartman, with Kubik getting involved as well. And right now, Roman Kubik, I think, trying to find a way on through, but it's not going to be easy for him as he has to fall back there. But looking at Sight Emir, he's immediate on the attack versus Oscar Bernson, and Bernson tucking in behind there, falling to fourth place as Emir moves up to third. 2 places gained from him already, but all the field is safely through the opening few corners as they conduct the GP loop initially, and then they'll make the way onto the Nordschleife loop in due course. But coming from the lowest point of the circuit now, they'll make their way upwards, and we can see Walt Lazuski still fighting hard with Gustavo Ariel, having had a bit of a difficult start, and we've got a few drives further back who've had slow starts, including those we didn't get a chance to talk to. That's a big side loose there for Marcus Saramento, and he's going to let Neil Rocks and Fabrizio Donoso through, as in the end Saramento gets it back on the road just in the nick of time as Donoso's not quite able to capitalise. But Hunter Lawrence definitely was, and Hunter Lawrence now under pressure and Bell Wells, as well as looking up the inside of him there into Advan Bogan, but it didn't quite come about by the time they got through Bill Street curves. That's 3 wide in front, and Gordon Howard at the end. Oh, goodness me! How exactly does that come about? I think that's wet tyres there, a cold surface and cold tyres, all going very sideways very quickly, and he goes spinning off the road. And well, now as I try to make the way onto Nordschleife Loop, and one trying to keep it together as much as possible. The clouds are lingering, but right now no sign of rain on the horizon. As hard on the brakes they come. 2 wide they enter into Speed curve, and that's going to be Aaron Jones just creeping back ahead of Kubik, with Clifford now tucking into the toe. But at this point onwards, going 2 wide through here is extremely risky as well. Goodness me, that's close, and George Tyler gets ahead of Noah Eder there, making their way in towards the next section of corners. And right now George Tyler thinks in a bit of a hurry to make sure that Noah Eder doesn't get ahead of him. But Oscar Bernson has been lost from this running order. I believe Bernson's had to tow to the pit due to an incident we haven't quite captured on camera. But as your top 3 now start to abscond away, the rest of the field are now playing catch up at this point in the day. But I wouldn't be surprised there if there's a bit of time to go in this race before we really start to see the pack get all dicey, because they've got 3 laps here, and this first lap is all about setting yourself into your pace and rhythm. The tyres will be mostly warmed up at this point as they go roaring on through Flugplatz curve, but right now you can definitely see how the top 3 have just got a little bit more of a pace advantage compared to the rest. But onwards they go, and as they do, these drivers right now nose to tail every step of the way as we say hello to a few of you in the YouTube chat, including RPC, RP Corp there, also to Nick Debeck, and also to Crew Jones, and I do believe that's everyone so far. But right now, coming back to what's on our screens here, Tim Barnes right now holding on as Maximilian Tanger, well, he's under a bit of pressure of Roman Kubik. He's just made his way past Kubik as they now make the way all the way into the compression. At this point, what do you do if you're Roman Kubik? I think he feels like he's got the pace in the number 21, but the problem is right now that Tanger is proving himself to be a much quicker driver in the early stages in the Haribo machine. And I think what you've got to do here if you're Roman Kubik is try to work the driver in front of you and look to try and goad him into a mistake if you can. Just put him under pressure to go quicker and quicker in the thought of catch up to Aaron Jones, because in the early stage of the race, you really want to settle into a bit of a hierarchy of the running order, but you don't want to go for any crazy overtakes unless you absolutely have to here. Because whilst the road width is enough for 2 wide, most of the time around the Nordschleife Loop, you don't want to go 2 wide anywhere, particularly when you've got the fault of some slight standing water out there, and that is what's going to be on the minds of many a driver. But looking a bit further back, Fabrizio Donoso, he was all the way at the back of the field after a bit of a slow start, but he's now gradually recovering. He's looking for the move here on Wells, in towards the right-hander he comes. Wells stays out to the outside there, and in the end it is going to be a nice move into Callan Hard, but into the Spiegel curve they come, and Donoso gets that move done, and Wells falls back. But I think Fabrizio Donoso right now making sure not to make any mistakes here as they come roaring on down in towards the very tricky Versiphon, a corner where it's all about braking at exactly the right time, and well, getting it too late and you end up going straight on. But back to George Tyler, and as we can see right now, George Tyler keeping it nice and together here as he makes his way onwards now towards the next section of corners, and that's going to be in towards Bergberg in due course. And right now, Tyler just making sure not to make any errors here as Noah Eder and so MS stay absolutely close behind him. Running the way up the hill at this point, and well, these drivers right now, I think, started to recognise the fact that given they've broken away, it's now at the game of who can break away from each other in this 3-way pack. George Tyler still leading ahead of Eder, and then Sight Emir almost a second behind now. So I think our top 2 are keeping each other incredibly honest, and our third place man, I think, will be hoping that those 2 fight each other. Tim Barnes, meanwhile, where he's got David Lewinsky behind him, and he right now starts to pull Lewinsky away with him as Maximilian Tanger is falling a bit further back. You see Aaron Jones as well. I think he's looking at this and wondering exactly how he can potentially get involved, as that was too wide in towards the very fast left-hander of the curve. and that was Ariel, Clifford and Kubik is going to lose that even more. As hold on a second, who's that going sideways? I couldn't quite see it. I think that was Ruslan Aliyev. Yes, it was, and Aliyev's been into the barrier. I think Aliyev's car's going to tow to the pit, and that's a surprise, not a welcome one. And for Ruslan Aliyev, it's heartbreak, where he'll even be able to complete a single lap of the ring. But right now, everybody keeping it together, or thereabouts, as we do see Diaz Murillo. Well, he has got Hayden Bramley close behind. Bramley, who started all the way back in 20th place, and well, he's definitely making quick progress here in the number 3. I think his target at this point is going to be to try and get to that top 10 by the end of lap number 1. I think it's much easier said than done, as Gustavo Ariel has now found his way past Denis Baradrek as they roar the way now onto the downhill section. So through Hoact and Hedwig's Hole they come, and then Whipperman and Esbach are going to be awaiting them in due order. But right now, all these drivers definitely in a processional order. It's not because they want to be in a processional order, they have to be, because going for a move around here right now is either going to be very costly to time, or 30, you've got to very quickly find yourself on a non-optimum line, as Ariel does not get the memo there, and he goes for it as Gustavo Ariel throws the car to the inside of Aaron Jones, and Jones right now has to wait as we jump on board with the number 12 machine. But the exit out of the right hand, they're coming all the way through, none other than what was the run of Brinchen into the ice curve now, and then it'll be the run of Flansgarden next. This is where they'll open up the taps completely as they roar the way on through. A little bit of water on the windscreen there, no falling rain. That's just simply where you've got the standing water being sprayed up by the car in front. Needs to clear that off, but right now that is clearing quite quickly. For Jones now it's in the run to the Stefan Beloff S, and also known as Flansgarden Zwei, but here just back it off, and you can see not confident in the car as Berchevek, meanwhile, is all over the back of him. And I do wonder, with regards to tyre compounds, whether we've had a bit of a mixture of compounds. No, everyone's gone for the slick tyre. We thought that earlier. We had that data to say everyone had gone the slick, and there's your confirmation in the timing tower. We'll keep that up there for the remainder of the race. But right now, Aaron Jones is struggling, whereas other drivers in front of him are not. Is there a bit of a story there? Perhaps he just doesn't feel confident with that section of the road. But change of places, Maximilian Tangent gets ahead of Paul Bartman, and Bartman on the inside there versus Ariel. And Ariel right now trying to force his way around the outside there. Not somewhere you normally go for a move for Galgan Kopf corner around the outside, it's normally to the inside. But I think Gustavo Ariel there is going to throw everything at it, as now he's in the draft. And what sort of speed is he going to be achieving in the tow? Well, already up to 168 miles an hour as he makes his way towards what is approximately the halfway point. Now up to 175 miles an hour. We do believe you see there Bartman's car disappear and then reappear from the ether. But Ariel right now started to max out at 178 miles an hour here as he picks up a huge overspeed. Down the hill he comes, and for Gustavo Ariel this is going to be full commitment into the braking zone at 181 miles an hour. My good lord, the overspeed they pick up through there is absolutely sensational, and that's how we move into 7th place. But after one lap of racing, we've got 2 more to go. It's George Tyler ahead of Noah Ida, with Saint Emir completely your top 3, and Emir has closed back up as a result of the run down the Dottinger Her back straight, but the fighting behind is intensifying. David Lewinsky, he's in a lonely 4th place for a little bit of time, but look there, and you'll see Maximilian Tangent battling hard with Tim Barnes. Barnes looking up the inside, but now they switch from right into left. Who's going to be ahead at the end? And look at Gustavo Ariel, he's moved ahead of Bartman under braking, and then right now, as they make the way out of the corner, it's Tangent who holds ahead, but Ariel is going to try and put his nose on the inside into turn number 3. And does exactly that. So Gustavo Ariel, who started all the way back in 22nd place, he's absolutely carving his way through the field. And right now, I can tell you one thing, there is nothing slowing that man down other than the mistake of his own doing at this point, or contact with another car. And I think he's taking the adage, which is, you either get out my way or I will get you out of my way. He is definitely driving as if he's Ayrton Senna right now, but who can blame him, because he's definitely got his head in gear. But right now, Bartman and Barnes, they fight over 7th place, and as they do, we take a look back in time as to what exactly happened to Oscar Bernson at the start of the race. So this was the ice-cold racing powered by Max Sim Racing driver, who at the time was inside the top 5 pack, made his way into the right-hander there, and that was in the early complexes, and just went deep. And I wonder whether by clipping the curb they damaged the suspension, but his race was over at that point. Meanwhile, we had this for Ruslan Aliyev, and Aliyev made his way into the curve. That was the aftermath, went to the barrier, but how did it start? Here's a look further back in time. This was side by side with Hayden Bramley then as he made his way through the right into left. Curve was coming up, Bramley on the inside. Bramley went for it. Was there contact? Some would say yes, there might have been. Some would say no, there was not. That camera angle not being very conclusive, but definitely there. I think Ali had been caught out by Bramley being aggressive, and as a result, found his way to the barrier. Alternatively, in the end, well, be moved to the barrier. But We also had this for Neil Rocks on what was the run through Flansgarden, and that was oh my good lord, and that was contact there with none other than, I believe, Marcos Sarmiento, and in the end, Rocks came off the worst of the pair of them by a considerable margin. And we also had this for Ling Zhao towards the end of lap number 1, and this was Zhao making his way, oh my good lord, hitting the curb there. That would have been the run through Tiergarten to Hohenrain, and in the end, once he hit that curb, he was a passenger in his car, and the number 20 in the end wilted before he was able to what was flourish onto lap number 2. Now here we come back to your live pictures then, ladies and gentlemen. So tries roar the way onto Nordschleife Loop once again. And well, we can see Tim Barnes right now still with Gustavo Ariel, and Aaron Jones is now behind. And in fact, Ariel has fallen backwards quite recently. I wonder what exactly has happened. I think he's had an off-track of some description from what I'm hearing in my ear, but we're not going to be able to get a replay of that right now. But definitely things have gone a bit wrong for him. But as they all make their way onwards, we also do say hello there to Nicolas Gomez in the YouTube chat. Hope you're doing well, good sir. And well, as they all all the way on through right now, definitely as we get deeper and deeper into this race, we have started to see exactly who's got the race pace versus those who've qualified very well, but the reality is they're now starting to struggle a little bit. Also, we've got a circuit that still does have wet patches on it, and I think that confidence level, as the guys make the run through, particularly there as they head up through the compression and in towards Osnabrück Forst, is very telling, because those who know exactly where to put the car, they are carrying a lot more speed compared to those who are being a bit more conservative. Here's an example of Fabrizio Donoso, who we ride on board with in 16th place, the number 4 driver here. And started 21st. He's had a race that's gone good, then it's gone backwards, and now he's trying to make it go to good once again as he rides the rear of Drinan Osmani. Well, right now in the draft here of Osmani, but can he find a move into that very fast left hand that's coming up and Metzgertsfeld? The answer is no. And as he goes onto the brakes, he gets so close at that point. He can reach out and touch the rear wing of his rival. However, he's not going to want to do that. Instead, he wants to get the move done. Dives up the inside there to Callan Hard. And well, that was it for Fabrizio Donoso. That's a smooth move. That's probably one of the only places he'd overtake. Just something rolling across the circuit. I wonder if that's a bit of grass of some description. But either way, the clouds are gradually coming over the circuit right now. And as all drives roar the way on around, well, if there is any more rain in the forecast, we're not quite sure whether there is going to be more rain, but if there is, that could suddenly turn this race into what be a race of survivals. That's the car round, and that is Hunter Lawrence, who's had a big spin, and for Lawrence has gone wrong. Also for Yannick Diaz-Murillo there, they both got it wrong. Murillo was the first to go round. He was the one we briefly saw, and then Lawrence did the same. How exactly did Murillo go round? Well, here's the replay to explain. He was chasing after Hayden Bramley at the time in the fight for 13th place. Went into their siphon hard on the brakes, and in the end carried a bit too much speed, and the rear said no. And then Hunter Lawrence came in and did the exact same mistake. The grip levels there not being conducive to either driver's races, I can tell you that. But back to your live race to become then. That was the prize. And now here's Hunter Lawrence chasing after Bell Wells after gaining all those places early on. Lawrence has now got to do all the hard work again as he looks around the outside there into Bergwerk corner, but that's not going to work. Meanwhile, looking back up to the very front of the corner, it's as easy a Bergwerk, I think this man would say. George Tyler right now still leading ahead of none other than Noah Ida, and Saint Emir has closed back up to them. It does seem as though Emir, for all the falling off on the open lap of the race, he's now started to pick the pace back up, and I wonder whether Emir's potentially just conserving the car a little bit right now and getting himself comfortable, and is really basing this race on the idea that the top two are going to fight, and they're going to fight hard, particularly when we get to lap number 3. Well, that's a good philosophy to have, as Hayden Bramley's in the rears there. What exactly's happened to Hayden Bramley? We take a look back. So this was Bramley making his way then all the way up the hill in towards that Gesamtstrecke. Oh, and he lost it coming through Klosterol. The car just cut loose. In fact, Klosterol being earlier on, my apologies. But the point being, car went wrong. And oh, my good lord. And 2 drives straight into the scene of the instant there. And, well, Hayden Bramley's race out of order. And in the end, that was Yannick Diaz-Murillo making the contact there. Couldn't quite see who else. I think it was Gordon Haug. But Hayden Bramley's race in bits. And that's going to be very frustrating for the driver there. And, well, it's all gone very wrong for Bramley after it was going so right. But here we are then with George Tyler, back to your leaders, and well, as they make the way on the downhill segment before getting ready to make their way all the way into Flansgarden, Irons and Zwei. Well, Tyler there in a bit of a slide on entry as he made his way over over the crest of S-Back. Well, not S-Back, that's Ice Curve there. Let me get my corner names right. Indeed, I can get them wrong every so often. But hopping and skipping his way on through the jump. And George Tyler right now doing everything right, at least for now. But now Eden and Slight Emir are keeping him honest. And it's a further 7.3 seconds before you get to the second pack, which David Lewinsky has now been caught up to by Maximilian Tanger. And Gustavo Ariel is really pushing hard here as we ride on board with the all-black machine. My good lord, this is scary right now. And I'm in a comfortable commentary booth, ladies and gentlemen, several miles away. But I can tell you one thing, Gustavo Ariel right now has no fear whatsoever as he absolutely latches onto the back of Maximilian Tanger, and these cars bouncing around, they're almost flying through there. And as he makes his way now in towards the Kleiner Carousel, where's he going to go? Oh my good lord, he dives, and there's contact between the two of them, and Ariel there coming in like an absolute ballistic missile. Maximilian Tanger turns to the barrier, and well, he's not going to be too happy about that at all. He knew Ariel was going to go for something, but even then, there's a move that's on, and there's a move that's not on. I think he would firmly argue that move was never on for Gustavo Ariel, but Ariel, as a result, has taken that place, and Paul Bartman has also picked up the place as Bartman and Ariel now swapping places down the Dottinger Hoa, and they're going to get into the toe of David Lewinsky, but Ariel really all over the back of Bartman here. I think trying to push him along, give him a little bit of a bump draft there, and as they get ready to make their way over the rise, you can understand if they want to catch up to Lewinsky very quickly. Meanwhile, your leaders of George Tyler, Noah Ida and Sait Emir, they're all still together, but then we do look to Lewinsky here, who's going to be passed by both Bartman and Ariel, but I think Lewinsky's got a good idea here, which is what's the point fighting them right now when I can let them trip over each other as they make their way in towards Tiergarten and Hoa Rain? Well, he's got to now try and stay with them for the remainder of the run. Looking back to Connor Clifford, we haven't really talked about Connor since the start today. Started 9th up to 8th, and he does have Denis Bergevec and also Roman Kubik behind him. We're keeping them both honest as they roar the way then onto a final lap. Here comes lap number 3 of 3, and right now we've got battles all up and down the top 10 as we do see Clifford trying to keep Bergevec behind him, but Bergevec is going to be on the inside here in towards the opening braking zone. As they get ready to go onto the anchors, well, it's not too slippery on that white pit exit line, and that's exactly what Bergevec is trying to go for, but Clifford says, I'll go outside to inside, thank you very much, and get it done, as Kubik, meanwhile, cuts at the inside as well. So unfortunately for Denis Bergevec, he's lost 2 places for the price of trying to take one, but here now comes a fight as Kubik gets a brilliant run into turn number 3, but Clifford right now is going to keep fighting this, but goes out wide there, just understeers deep, and he's going to lose out both the places he's just retaken, and suddenly it all goes backwards after it was going forwards for him. But more to come, surely, as we look back to your leaders. And here is Tyler, Ida and Emir as they now get ready to roar the way in towards the Bill Street curve. Right on board and looking back, this top 3 right now, they have stayed relatively static after an open lap. We saw them negotiate the order they wanted to run in, with George Tyler in the end taking the lead of the race off Noah Ida. However, keep in mind they are exactly where they started right now. And well, your number 2 and number 1 driver both pushing on hard, but your number 5 of Emir behind, he's playing a very closed game here of racing. And Sait Emir, I think he's hoping that these two fight each other too hard towards the end, and he can capitalise on any chaos that ensues. And that's why you're seeing there's a constant presence, but he's never really announced himself in this fight. I think he's hoping that our top 2 just ignore that he's there, and then suddenly they get so embroiled that mistakes are made. But coming through Sabine Schmidt curve right now, George Tyler doing everything right, at least for now. Still more to come here as they roar the way on towards the next section of the circuit on the Nordschleife Loop. Further back, Gustavo Ariel, he has since cleared Bartman and Lewinsky. He got past them, of course, on the run down the Dottinger Hoa, and Ariel in a car that definitely has got some damage on it. Well, I think he's just trying now to make sure he secures 4th place. But keep in mind, of course, we've still got the entirety of the Nordschleife Loop to go, and in terms of lap time comparisons, well, Ariel has been 3 seconds a lap slower compared to your top 3, but that's when he's been picking his way past traffic as he dances his way there sideways through Hatzenbach and now into Hoheiken. And right now for Gustavo Ariel, he is attacking this circuit like nobody's business, but as he gets ready to catch up to our cameraman here for Quiddebach Hoa, you can understand by the time he gets to Flugplatz, he is pushing so hard here. I think now he's using all the track plus plenty more and a bit of grass to go with it. And that grass is going to be damp. It's not going to offer any grip out there whatsoever. He is driving right on the threshold of what is adhesion. But back to your top 3. And as they all come through Shred and Kreuz for the final time, no change at the moment, but you can definitely see Ida so close here, and Emir staying right in the hunt with them as we jump on board with our 2nd place driver. But Ida right now, what's he thinking? What he's going to be thinking at this point is, where do I go for the move? Where do I get it done? Understandably, the only place you do go for the move really is down the Dottinger Hoa. However, if he can get the move done a little bit early and perhaps open up a gap, he would hope to do so. But I think it's really just a game of stay close and then decide who exactly is going to be the leader onto the final back stretch. And I do know there can be some shenanigans sometimes as to essentially drivers saying to each other, no, after you please, I don't want to be leading on the Dottinger, and they intentionally try to have a slight error coming out of Galgenkopf corner in order to lose that lead and then tuck in and build up the momentum. But right now, I don't think any of that's going to play out. I don't think you're going to see any of those slipstream shenanigans beyond the standard, which is whoever's the leader, they've then got to find a magical way to hold on. But that's a bounce over a curb there as they make their way down to Kallenhard Bend. And Aida right now so close to the back of Tyler. Sight Emil watching on behind as well. And here is that top three now as they roar the way in towards the Spiegel curve, but you can see Emir just holding back very slightly, whereas those top two so close fender to fender, and no difference as they get ready to go into their siphon. Further back, here is Gordon Haug as he chases after 12th place in the battle with Yannick Diaz-Murillo. As they roar the way in towards the second half of the North-South loop gradually. The only problem is at this point is they are a long way away from the top 11. I think both drivers here want to just try and keep it together and keep it clean for the remainder. We've definitely had quite a high rate of retirements to this one. We have lost the best part of what is a grand total of 8 drivers out of 25 starters. We are down to a field of runners currently of 17 cars. In fact, make that 16 cars. Let me get my numbers correct because we have we have 17 cars. Neil Rocks is still going out there. I was right the first time, but nobody else wants to add themselves to the list of retirees before all is said and done. But as we do see Drillan Osmani there, continue to stay a little bit clear of Yannick Diaz-Murillo. And right now the 11th place runner, not really too worried in the Red Bull machine. We then come back to your leaders as they roar the way up towards the highest point of the circuit, heading over the Eifel Mountains. And it's still George Tyler, Noah Ida and Saint Emir. No change between them at this point. It is getting very close, and we'll see Ida getting very tight to the back into the curve corner. Does not go for the move at the side of here. Now extremely close. We ride aboard the dashboard. My goodness, he could be any closer as they make the way to the right and kick all the way before that. Breaking so touch of the grass a bit. I don't know how he's managed to keep that on the road. My good lord. And well, through the right hander he comes. And right now for sight of here, if he was any closer at that point, I think they would have been in contact to the rear of Ida's car. Alternatively, he would have been in the grass and he would have been in the barrier. But in towards the carousel they come then, and right now all 3 drives, they've been so impressive over this race distance, but Emir runs out a little bit too early, a bit too eager on the throttle. That's going to cost him some time now. He'll fall back to half a second, but he'll hope he doesn't make any more mistakes like that. Well, thankfully the car didn't ground out there on the exit curb. It can ground out if he's got the ride height too low, and in doing so it would have meant the car would have essentially been ejected to the barrier, but thankfully the ride height he's running has just been able to comply and clear that curb, and now they make the way all the way through Hedwig's Hurt and towards Whipham Bend. Well, he's fallen back a little bit, but he'll be taking confidence to the fact he may still be able to get involved towards the very end of this race. That's your top 3. Meanwhile, Gustavo Ariel, your 4th place runner, he's definitely fought his way hard through the field, having started all the way in 22nd place. He is pushing incredibly hard. He is dancing through every corner right now. That Porsche is more sideways than it is straight, and as he makes his way down the hill, he wants to get closer and closer, but that gap is not coming down at the rate of knots he wants it to. And right now this might be a race where it's just simply settle for 4th place to see if he can put in the fastest lap of the race at the very end to prove a point, having started from the very back of the field, but we will see. But back to your top 3. And here they are as they make the jump, and right now for George Tyler, he's not too far away for a final run down the Dottinger straight. However, how much of a gap can he create before he gets there as he makes his way to Flensgarden Zwei now, and this is the full throttle run here. Now Idor 8 tenths back, and he's falling back little by little. Saint Emir still with the 2nd place man, but right now George Tyler, this time around, he has absolutely delivered it with clinical precision as he heads over the rise now and heads towards the Kleiner Carousel. Gap up to a 2nd here as now Idor is starting to struggle a little bit, and will through that left hander they come, and right now for George Tyler, it's just a runaway all the way to the finish here as they get ready to make their way into the right hander at Galgenkopf Bend. Tyler does so here as he roars his way over the rise. Around he comes. One last run down the Dottinger straight. Is Tyler safe? Is he going to be caught up? The gap was a 2nd as they exited Galgenkopf corner, but is it going to be clear enough? Here we go. Let's see then, ladies and gentlemen, as Tyler roars his way down. Now Ida meanwhile trying to follow him left then right, as meanwhile Saint Emir tucked in behind Ida Ida at this point. Surely he's got to bear his fangs. Surely he's got to think about fighting for second place. But the problem is, does he want to? Well, he is going to pick up the overspeed here, and Ida's going to give as much space as possible to cooperate as they want to both catch up to Tyler. They are half a second away now as they get towards the Bilstein Bridge, but coming on down the hill, I don't think they're close enough here as they roar the way all the way towards what will be Tiergarten and her right. It's going to be too wide in the fight for second. Will it be Ida or Emir? They're too wide all the way to the last couple of corners as George Tyler makes one through. It is going to be Ida who gets ahead then, and for George Tyler, as the checker flag waves, it's going to be victory at the Nürburgring for George Tyler in the number 2, ahead of Noah Ida in second place, who held off a very conservative but confident Saint Amir, who finishes in third. And then we will see shortly Gustavo Ariel having come through the field all the way to 4th place in the end, and then it will be Paul Bartman who brings home 5th, ahead of David Lewinsky in 6th, and then we will have Tim Barnes come home in a lonely but happy 7th place, albeit not where he started, but he's finished well, and it'll be Dennis Bajovic who takes home 8th place in the end, ahead of Connor Clifford, with Roman Kubik in 10th place, just ahead of Drillan Osmani, who's going to bring on home an 11th place finish in the end, ahead of Yannick Diaz Murillo. And then we will have Gordon Haug and Hunter Lawrence completing that finish in order to 13th, 14th, and then 15th place finisher of Walt Lazulski. As we see him coming home, we've got a couple more cars to make the way to the finish line, including Bell Wells, who will come home in 16th place. And then it'll be Neil Rocks, who has a bit of time to go before he sees his checkered flag. But here he comes, ladies and gentlemen. And, well, he's got, in fact, a long way to go here. He has got the run all the way through the downhill section, and therefore, as he makes well through, we can talk a little bit about what has been a very challenging race for so many drivers here today. But the challenge, of course, for George Tyler was keeping Noah Ida and Saint Emir behind. And in the end, for George Tyler, he was able to do that with Ida and Amir having to fight each other for second place, but now Ida holding on by a hair's width out the final couple of quarters. Whereas for Neil Rocks, that big instant earlier on in the race cost him very dear. It didn't quite work out whatsoever in the end for him, but he's still going to get to the finish. And then the number 15 car to finish 17th. It's not going to be too big a bruise to his iRating compared to how it could have been if he'd retired from the race. Speaking of those unfortunate retirees, we did lose Aaron Jones quite late on lap number 1. We also lost Fabrizio Donoso towards the end of lap 1, and we did lose Maximilian Tanger, Liang Zhao, Hayden Bramley, Oscar Bernson, Ruslan Aliyev, and Marcus Sarmiento all the way at the start of the race. But still, those we've lost, commiserations to them, and those who stayed out, they've delivered an absolutely incredible race. As here is Walt Lazulski, as he just gradually tiptoes his way back towards the pit lane and finished in 15th place. He's enjoying a bit of a cool-down lap on the GP loop. And what a race from him in the end, keeping it all together when everybody else seemed to be losing their head to a degree. But for Lazulski, it just brought the car on home and finished in one place higher than where he started in number 16. So quite perfect there for the 16th place man to start 16th on the grid, but take home that 15th place finish. But let's see the man then who's still got to get to that finish line. And here's Neil Rocks making his way along. And let's take a prediction of what speed he's going to carry, ladies and gentlemen, all the way down this Nottingham Straight. And right now, only at 130 miles an hour. I wonder whether he's got an issue with the car, because it does seem as though he's not able to carry anywhere near as much speed as other drivers, and I would suspect then that he might be having some difficulty with the car, unless there's something we're not aware of here. But normally we'd expect him to be the best part of what would be 170 plus miles an hour, and I think the damage he picked up earlier on, although it's not quite visible on the car, might be dictating why he's fallen so far off the pace over the distance. But still, for Rocks, he manages to top out the best part of 136 miles an hour at the Bilstein Bridge, and as he makes his way towards the finish line now, not too far to go here for our number 15 driver. We say hello to a few of you there in the YouTube chat who have enjoyed all the racing, including none other than Mr. Matesses 51, also there to none other than John Smith, and also to Max Enstrong. But without further ado, here comes Neil Rocks, ladies and gentlemen, to complete his race. Give him a round of applause as well. He's had a difficult one, but he still finishes 17th after a 24th place start, and he will be your last finisher. But as the circuit falls silent, we take a look to the scenic view as always, and with it, we take a look to those race results subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries. And as we can see, after a fast and furious 3-lap shootout in the Week 3 straight for field race of the 2026 Season 1 iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT here at the Nürburgring Gesamtstrecke. It was George Tyler who brought home victory by less than a second in the end over Noah Eder. The two of them kept each other honest on the first 2 laps, but on the 3rd lap for Tyler, he had a little bit more pace in the bank and he was able to deploy it to make sure that Saint Amir could not get close enough to potentially challenge him, but could definitely challenge Noah Eder and fight for that second. And so Eder's attention was turned to the fight for second, and he managed to hold on through the final couple of quarters for the Veloce team, and the German driver just outpacing the totally safe drivers member from Turkey, who in the end finished in 3rd. Gustavo Evriel came all the way through the field in the end for Team Redline to make his way to a 4th place finish ahead of Paul Bartman, with your top 5 being completed thus. And then we saw Dawid Lewinsky in 6th place ahead of Tim Barnes, with the Fozotech by WMS driver in the end falling 3 places, but still getting right in the thick of the fighting, 4 seconds ahead of Denis Barchevek, with the K Kramer Racing Esports driver in the end making sure that Connor Clifford and Roman Kubik could not get close to him, and instead they rounded off your top 10. Julian Osmani finished in 11th, best of the rest, ahead of Yannick Murillo, with Gordon Haug in 13th place ahead of Hunter Lawrence. And then we did see Walt Lazuski finishing in 15th there, 3 seconds clear of Bell Wells. And then we did have your last finisher on the lead lap of Neil Rocks. There were damage to the car, but the Wiskins Racing driver made sure to get it on home. Commiserations, unfortunately, to our retirees, of which we did have several, including none other there than Aaron Jones, and also Fabrizio Donoso and Maximilian Tanger. 2 laps down then, it was to Hayden Bramley, and unfortunately not completing a single lap of racing today, Oscar Burnson, Ruslan Aliyev, Ling Zhao, and also Marcus Sarmiento. So 25 starters and in the grand total of 17 finishers, ladies and gentlemen, all of them on the lead lap. And that brings our racing to a close here at the Nürburgring Gesamtstrecke. But what a race it was. A challenging race, but an exciting one, and we got to see the very best that our drivers had to offer around the Nürburgring. But with that, as the circuit falls silent, it's time for us to fall silent in the commentary booth and open up the door to talk a little bit about our series sponsor, and that is CONSPIT. If you are looking to take your sim racing to the next level, then why not consider CONSPIT? As the pro driver's choice of sim racing hardware, CONSPIT offers one of the most comprehensive lines of hardware products to sim racers around the world. Whether you're in the market for wheelbases, steering wheels, pedals, peripherals, or rigs, CONSPIT's extensive experience in the motorsport industry means every one of their products is fine-tuned for success at the highest level. But do not just take our word for it. We're brand ambassadors including 2022 Grand Prix Macau GT Cup champion Luo Kaliu, 2022 Porsche Carrera Cup Asia champion Liu Ye, 2022 Chinese Touring Car Championship champion Rodolfo Avila, and 2023 GT World Challenge Asia GT3 AM Cup champions Climax Racing. You shall be in pole position for victory when you invest in CONSPIT's hardware. If you'd like to know more, be sure to head to conspit.com today. And with the test of the Nürburgring behind us, we move on to week number 4, and we head to a very familiar circuit, and one that is absolutely loved around the world for creating unpredictable racing. It is none other than the autodrama, what is Jose Carlos Pache, also known as Interlagos. So come tune in next Saturday on the 10th of January 2026, as we continue the story with week 4 of 12 in Brazil. But until then, we have been the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh, and until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, like our drivers, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.